Hello, BookTube. It's Christmas Eve, and I have another tag for you. I have a tag that I found on Always Booked, on Chloe's channel, Always Booked, called the Holly Jolly Christmas tag, and I liked it, so I wanted to do it for you today, even though yesterday is when I predicted I'd be doing my last tag. I thought we'd do one more tag for this year. A whole bunch of Christmas-related questions that I really liked. The first one being, what is your favorite Christmas movie? And if we are leaving out here The Lion in Winter, which I mentioned in an earlier video, the movie version of the play, The Lion in Winter, which takes place over Christmas. If we're leaving it out, and I don't doubt that we should, after all, technically speaking, a Christmas movie should revolve around Christmas. It shouldn't just take place then. Then I want to say the 1970s cartoon of How the Grinch Stole Christmas. I've seen on BookTube and elsewhere at this time of year, every year, I see a lot of love for Jim Carrey's live action Grinch, and I don't understand why people like that movie. I really don't. I don't understand why, especially how it has survived the ravages of woke culture. Jim Carrey's decision to make the Grinch a vampy gay villain, and to make him a vampy villain specifically because obviously he's gay. I don't know how that survived, but one way or another, I didn't like it at all. I didn't think that it was funny. I thought it was very, very easy, very, very lazy humor all throughout. Whereas the cartoon is sublime. So I'm gonna choose that. Was it 1978? 77? It was in the late 70s. I remember when I first saw it. And then question number 2 is, are you on the naughty list or the nice list this year? And Chloe makes a very good point in her video, which is that surely at the end of the year 2020, the worst year that any of us has ever experienced, the worst year that the world has experienced in modern memory, in a century, surely at the end of this year, we're all on the nice list. If we're still here, sure, and we're not in jail for homicide, then surely we're all on the nice list. Question number 3 is, have you ever had a white Christmas? And I have, yes, many times. There was one time where I found myself, I was a house guest in a small town, a picturesque little cookie cutter town in Connecticut. This was a very, very long time ago. I had become quite friendly with the son of the house, the boy who had gone off to college. And we were back at his house for Christmas, and it was a gorgeous little town, a gorgeous little part of a gorgeous little town, a beautiful house on a slight hill with a little property and a paved stone walk all the way up, and the mailbox and the lamps and a Christmas tree, not only in the living room, but also another decorated Christmas tree out on the lawn. And it was only at Christmas morning. There was a fresh blanket of bright white snow. There were chickadees at the bird feeder, and there was a snowman that had been made by the local children. And my host's parents, my boy's grandparents, were visiting in the guest room, and they were the sweetest little white-haired old couple in perfect matching sweaters. And there was a garland and holly and decorations everywhere, and a festive meal was in the preparation that would take all day to make and all evening to eat. And it was only that morning that I said to my friend, this really is a storybook Christmas. This is just a storybook Christmas. And not intentionally. No one here is trying to do that. It just has worked out that way. And that is amazing. And he said, yeah, tell me about it. It's this year. It's this way every year. I can't wait to get away from this. He said later on, he said, I can't wait to get away from all this. I can't wait to have Christmases that aren't perfect. I can't wait to write about all this. And I dream someday of spending Christmas Day in a place where no one speaks English and no one has ever heard of Christmas. I want to get as far away from this picture book as possible. And he went on to do that. He went on to do both those things. He wrote about that world and those Christmases, and he did celebrate Christmas in a couple of places where he was celebrating that it wasn't Christmas. It was kind of amazing to be there and to think back on that. That was just about as quintessentially storybook perfect a Christmas as I could imagine, and I was actually there for it. And there was another time, another White Christmas, where I was a guest in Elkhorn, Iowa. which I don't imagine more than two of you will know. So it's a little town in Iowa. It's wonderful, like all little towns in Iowa. And I was there again. I had become very close to the son of the family, the oldest boy, and I was there as his guest. I was at his parents' farm uh, outside of Elkhorn as his guest. And we had a white Christmas, and it was great, and the food was fantastic, absolutely fantastic. And the I had a great time because I was visiting and didn't have my own dogs with me, so I commandeered the farm dogs and the house dogs immediately. And my friend, my friend had tried to warn his parents, especially his father, who sort of ruled the roost. Uh, my friend had tried to warn him and say, the dogs are really going to respond to my friend, and don't take that amiss. He's not offended by that at all. He wants it to happen, and he's probably going to want them to spend time with us. They're going to be a lot more present with him around. They're going to want to be, and you're going to notice that, and there's no way to avoid it. Just don't make a scene. And to his father's credit, his father didn't make a scene. It became obvious in the course of that visit over late night wine that in a different time and place, his father might well have been one of my boys. When his father was 18 to 25, his father and I would probably have clicked in just exactly the same way that the son and I were clicking at the moment. I think the father realized that, so we got along really well. And shortly after that, if memory serves, shortly after that, there was a big winter snowstorm of a type that Midwestern storms can be a little different than the ones that we get here in Boston. They can be bigger. First of all, they can last a lot longer. And there's something that feels much more both beautiful and dangerous about them because they're out in the wild open. It's not quite as bad as a big snowstorm on the full open prairie, but Elkhorn is close enough. And my friend for privacy's sake, had converted a little room over one of the barns as his own sort of space. That was where he lived. He had a space heater up there and a bed and a crammed bookcase and some cast-off rugs, and that was where we spent our time while I was visiting him. That was where I slept there along with him as his roommate, as his parents thought. uh, and we were there. We were using that room. We weren't quartered in the main house when that snowstorm hit, and it was amazing listening to it just batter against the walls of the barn that weren't professionally caulked or insulated. It was kind of amazing. So it was a white Christmas, and it was a white everything afterwards as well. And I made a pass of myself, as I tended to do in places like that. When we knew that the storm was coming, I told, rather than asked, I should probably have been more diplomatic, but I told my friend's parents, look, I know you have farm dogs here, and I've met them and I've talked to them, and they really, really like it here, and they really like you. But we're not, no matter what your practice has been in past years, if you know that a big snowstorm is coming, you're not going to say, well, they know how to survive these things. They'll find the right port in the storm. That's not going to happen while I'm here. While I'm here, they're gonna ride out the storm inside the way they should, the way all dogs should. So, if they have a den, if they're wolves, then sure, but they aren't, and they don't. So, you hoping that they find a warm crevice in the horse barn is not going to work when I'm here. So we had a minor tense moment over that. By then, my host father knew that I wasn't trying to make trouble and that I wasn't, any weirder than it seemed. So by then, my host father was willing to say, all right, Steve wants the dogs near him, so, while he's our guest, they will be. So the dogs got to ride out the storm in comfort, which was nice. Question number 4, do you start your Christmas buying on Black Friday, or do you wait until the last minute? As I mentioned in the gifts reading tags or gift of books tags, I buy books for presents for people all the time. If it's a book, then I'm carefully listening to what they want all year long, and when I find something that's the right fit, then I grab it, and I don't wait. I don't Chloe mentioned a surprise closet where she puts stuff and lets it pile up, and I myself don't do that. I don't wait on giving presents. So if I see something, usually not a book, usually it's something else, but if I see something that somebody wants, I get it for them right away. I don't wait until Black Friday. Would never ever. I don't like. Uh, I love crowds of people, but I don't like mobs. And the tipping point between a crowd and a mob is thin at the best of times and non-existent on door busting times like Black Friday. And I don't know how many of you, I imagine quite a few of you have been in crowds. I'm not sure how many of you have been in mobs. It's a terrifying experience, absolutely terrifying. And I never want that to happen. And you know that crowds on Black Friday routinely become mobs. They are ready to become mobs. And the reason that you know that is because mobs have body counts and crowds don't. And many people have died on Black Fridays. So it's all the whole thing seems repulsive to me. So I just get presents all year long. And also, I know this sounds hokey, but I actually do mean it. It is not me being passive aggressive. I actually do prefer the internal emotional feeling, like completely direct to me, no virtue signaling. I actually prefer the feeling of giving somebody a present that makes them happy than getting a present of mine. I actually prefer that feeling, so, which is why many times when I have been, usually at holidays, I am the guest of somebody else. I'm usually not alone in Hyde Cottage on the holidays. It's only because of this stupid pandemic that I am not ensconced like the tick on the belly of a cow in the bosom of the Richardson family up in Vermont, where they need a crowbar to get me off. And it's only because of the pandemic that I'm not there, just ensconced in a room of my own, making intemperate demands. But usually I have been a guest over the decades and decades and decades. I have been a guest at Christmas time at somebody else's house. I don't usually keep Christmas on my own, but I love it when other people get festive. And one of my favorite gifts that my hosts can give me is something that I've almost always successfully arranged to do at least once. We'll be out shopping. One last bit of fun shopping with the children or the nieces and nephews or whatever. And we'll all be in this big group. I love spending time with children. I think it's fantastic. I think they're hilarious. It can be a little bit awkward when you're with when your friends are the parents and the friends need to discipline the children. That can be a little bit awkward because then you don't know where to look. You know, it feels a little odd. I always take it as a compliment that a family trusts me enough, likes me enough to show me that kind of thing. But it's also a little bit of a contrast since I know I would be terrible at disciplining children. I wouldn't do it at all. I would just try to talk with them. And that often doesn't work, as you parents will know right away. But one of my favorite things to do that I have done when I have been a guest in situations like that is to take the parents aside and say, you know, at some mall or some store or other, usually a bookstore, I'll take the parents aside and say, there's something I want in this bookstore and I want you to give it to me as a Christmas present. And the parents will be abashed. I never talk like that. I never ask for things like that ever. And they'll say, sure, what is it? And I'll say, I want to pay for the kids. I want to tell them that they can get what they want, and I'll pay for it. And many times I have had parents and friends and legal guardians and whatnot be a little bit surprised and then say yes, and that makes me so happy. That makes me genuinely happier than if those same people had come to me and said, you can have anything you want in this bookstore and I'll pay for it. That makes me genuinely happier to do that. So so that's my Black Friday is every day, but I largely confine it to the gift-giving holidays. Although I've told many people over the years, if I were ever in a bookstore with a child that wanted some of the books they were looking at, I would be helpless. I'd be just helpless. I would get them everything they want. I could not possibly say unless the child was just being a jerk, unless they were just saying, I want that, I want that, I want that, because they were just being greedy. But if it's easy to tell the difference between those two. If I saw a kid in a bookstore longing to get something, I couldn't possibly say no to them. I couldn't possibly say maybe next time or whatever, or if you're good, or anything like that. I couldn't do it. So it's probably best that I don't have children of my own. let's see here. Question number 4 is, no, question number 5 is, if you could be in a Christmas movie, which one would it be and why? My answer to this is the same as my answer to the innumerable tag questions that asked me what kind of book I would be in if I had a choice. I don't want to be in a Christmas movie. I don't want to be in a plastic invention of someone else. I know it's not playing along. I know you're supposed to view it as a world, but I wouldn't I wouldn't want to do it, not in any of them. Number 6 is, name all of Santa's reindeer. Dasher, Dancer, Prancer, Vixen, Comet, Cupid, Donner, and Blitzen. Is that right? Dasher, Dancer, Prancer, Vixen, Comet, Cupid, Donner, Blitzen. Yes, that's right. One of my favorite bits is actually it's a wonderful Christmas sequence in a movie. It's a Hepburn and Tracy movie. Katharine Hepburn and Spencer Tracy. It's a movie called Desk Set, where she works at a big corporation as a librarian. She and her team are librarians at that corporation before the internet, before anything like that. And the corporation hires an efficiency expert, who is Spencer Tracy, he's coming on board not only to assess how efficient the library is and how efficient everything else at the corporation is, but also to mastermind Emirac, a gigantic computer, a room-sized computer that is going to take over. It's the classic example of where we are living in the science fiction of that movie's writers, where we have computers with 500,000 times the computing ability of Emirac in our pockets. I'm filming on one right now, and the librarians and Katharine Hepburn's librarian are all up in arms about what Emirac is going to do to their jobs. In addition to which, Katharine Hepburn is facing a kind of bland, patronizing sexism from her corporate boyfriend. And Spencer Tracy, the attraction that they start to feel for each other, gets in the way of that. It's a minor movie, but it's a wonderful movie. Absolutely wonderful. And there's a great scene where the whole company is having an old-style corporate Christmas party, where there are different parties in each department all through this giant skyscraper, and no one's expected to be working, and everyone is having fun. The bubbly is flowing like crazy, and everybody at the place starts to get drunk, except Spencer Tracy's character, who never gets drunk, who never gets cold, who's kind of inhuman himself until Katharine Hepburn's character makes him a little more human. And he is there, and of course, because it's a library, the questions are still pouring in. Not only from inside the building, but from outside as well, from other people who are just calling in still, even though it's Christmas Eve. And at one point, he's alone in the reference section when somebody calls and asks the names of Santa's reindeer. And like everybody else in the world, he thinks, oh, that's easy, I know that. And he starts with a few of the reindeer and finishes up with all of the 7 dwarfs. And it says, sure, you're welcome. And hangs up the phone. And the thing that's funny about the moment is that you know that the caller is so tipsy that they're not noticing either. Anyway, question number 7. When does your family put up the Christmas decorations, and who does it? Well, I haven't done this in a very, very long time. I don't keep Christmas, and I haven't spent time with my biological family in I don't know how long, longer than most of you have been alive. The decorations were never my province, unfortunately, because savage, unruly dogs were always my province, and they don't go together with decorations at all. As you can see, savage, unruly dogs. I've got one who's trying to destroy her own bed. What are you doing? What are you doing? Why were you attacking that? You're such a savage little beast. Hello, baby. Why were you attacking your cat bed? Huh? Anyway, so it was never me. That's what I'm trying to say. Question number 8 is your Christmas tree real or fake? No Christmas tree here at Hyde Cottage, not real or fake. Question number 9, peeking at gifts or being surprised? Eons ago, we're talking a very long time ago, when I was a child and there were Christmas tree presents, I don't think I ever peeked. I didn't really care about them quite so much as I did just hanging out with my dogs, which is 365 days a year. It's all the time, so it wasn't any one daily highlight. I don't know that I peeked much. I'm not sure. I don't remember. Nowadays, with presents, I just open. I don't peek. I just open. I don't wait. Uh, let's see here. Question number 10 is, show us your ugly Christmas jumper if you have one. I wish I did. I've seen quite a few of them. I watch a lot of BookTube and a lot of YouTube that's not BookTube. A lot of that. I do a lot of that viewing, and quite a few people are all decked out for the holidays this time of year. I don't really care what I wear, which is a source of frustration to a lot of people, but nevertheless, I don't really care what I wear. In the wintertime, I want it to be hooded and bulky and warm. Uh, and in the summertime, I want it to be bulky and cool. I don't like tight clothing at all, but I just have a Nike sweatshirt on now, a jumper now. I don't have any ugly ones, or I would show them. I would gladly wear them if I did. Uh, let's see here. Question number 11 is, if you could be under the mistletoe with anyone, who would it be? I know you're expecting me to say Frida Bean, my little 10-pound ball of lint, my little schnauzer, because she is in her own way a very nice kisser. She's tiny. She's a tiny dog, but she makes up for it with fervor. But I'm afraid it's not her. I'm going to have to be unfaithful in this neighborhood. There is one particular dog. She is adorable. She is timid. She is always afraid that she is doing something wrong or that she's going to get on somebody's bad side. She's a big pit bull with a face that's just a foot wide. She's got this gorgeous pink nose, and we met, well, it must have been over a year ago, and Frida bawled her out, and Frida bossed her around, and she was all timid. Oh my God, don't hurt me, even though she's 20 times Frida's size and weight. And when that was all over with, I kept telling the dog's owner, Frida, she puts up a stiff outer appearance, but she's not going to do anything. She's the friendliest dog in the world. She's not going to do anything. She just wants to make sure that your dog knows who's boss. And the owner said, I know. I had a miniature schnauzer growing up. I know what they're like. And when the festivities were over between the pit bull and Frida, then she and I got to meet, and I got down to her eye level, and I put my nose against hers. The owner became like the 10 millionth person to say, "Will you stop destroying that? What are you doing?" He said how odd it was to meet someone who greeted her nose to nose and wasn't afraid that she would bite them or anything. That she wouldn't bite me in a million years. And that first meeting, she was all wide-eyed, like, "Oh my God, you're down at my level. Nobody ever does that. Oh my God, you're not petting me. You're nosing me. Nobody ever does that. Am I done something wrong? Am I in trouble?" And it it took her a minute or two to realize that what I wanted was for her to lick me. So I wanted her to kiss my face, and she lost it. Just lost it. Went nuts. And ever since then, when we see each other, that's all she wants to do is just kiss me, just lick my face. And she is who I would be under the mistletoe with. Absolutely, absolutely, because pit bulls give unbelievable face kisses. Question number 12 is, does your family have a special Christmas recipe that they like to make? A long, long time ago, my father had a recipe for fudge, and a giant. I wish I could find a picture of it. I wish I knew what happened to it. He had a giant metal vat that he put on the stovetop to make this stuff, and he had the recipe card that had all the main ingredients that he'd written out, and then he'd written in pen addenda, reminders, updates for himself, and it was smudged all over with egg yolk and old fudge of its own. And he would get that card out every once in a while and make that fudge, a giant vat of it, so that you'd have it for days. And it was better. I know there's probably an element of memory here involved, but it was the best fudge I ever had. And he died a long time ago, so Merry Christmas. He died a long time ago, and the card survived him, but as is I imagine common, even when somebody was scrupulously following that recipe, the fudge didn't taste the same. It didn't taste as good. So I don't know that I would call it a Christmas recipe, because he did it whenever he felt like it. There were times when he felt like making a batch of fudge in the middle of summer and did it anyway. But it did often happen at Christmas, so I'm going to lump it in here. Question number 13. Are you a pro present wrapper or do you fail miserably? I used to fail miserably at all times. Not just Christmas, but all the time. And then the old raggedy exposed asbestos bookstore where I worked in downtown Boston closed, and the company moved us to their glitzy sky and glass and steel new bookstore on the other side of town. And I changed my ways when I went there. I had been I had gotten my way at the old store. I was perfectly willing to adapt to the new store, and one of the things that I adapted to most quickly was that the new store's information desk was largely an add-on. Their customers were not the same as our old customers. They weren't interested. So at the old store, from noon to 2, every day like clockwork, I got a long line of customers, so that it was just time erasingly busy. The new store's information desk wasn't like that. It was naturally where I went, and because all of the managers from the new store and the old store were saying, yeah, whoever you've got in information, you want to move them because we want Steve there for the middle of the day. What are you doing? Frida, don't do that. What's the matter with you? I'm trying to make a Christmas tag. You're ruining Christmas. I realized quickly at the new store that the crowds happened at the registers. And I wanted the crowds. I wanted to talk to the customers. That was the only reason I was in the job. So I went and learned how to do the registers. It wasn't that hard. There were a few hilarious mishaps at the very beginning. But then I learned how to do the registers without undue slowness or anything like that. I started out with the guy who was running the registers there had come from the old store with me. And he was saying, no, I want you up here. You're great with the customers. This will be fine. The machine does the work. This will be fine. And if you just follow instructions, I'll be right next to you the whole time. There will be no trouble. And when my first shift was over, my till was off by $50. And he was more angry than I was, saying, no, that's not possible. That's just not possible. And we went over it with a fine-tooth comb. I always found it funny and a little bit complimentary that no one at the store for a moment assumed that I stole the money. And that was never even on the cards. Instead, it was that I had made a mistake, and it turned out I hadn't made a mistake. I just misplaced a $50 bill. So, but one way or another, when I was up at the registers, I was dealing with all kinds of things that I'd never dealt with at the old store, including gift wrapping. Because when it wasn't the holiday season, when it wasn't the actual 2-week crush of Christmas, we offered free gift wrapping to anything. If a customer bought something in July or November or whatever, if they wanted it wrapped, we would come out of line and wrap it for them. It was at Christmas time that we had charities and things like that. People would come in and set up a table with a donation box outside, and they would do the gift wrapping, and we wouldn't anymore. But all the rest of the time, we did it. And the first few times that I did that, the first few dozen times, was a disaster because I was always terrible at wrapping things. And then I got the hang of it. Then I figured out the secret to wrapping things, which is you look at the thing, and then like a Transformer movie where the car turns into an alien, what you have to do is look at the item and transform it in your mind into the nearest smoothly geometrical object. If it is a cluster, transform it into a circle. If it's a odd-shaped rectangle, transform it into a perfect rectangle in your mind and pull out enough paper and the commensurate amount of tape and ribbons and whatnot for that item. The key to wrapping anything and doing it quickly and presentably is to wrap its ideal Aristotelian version. So you get all your equipment ready to wrap that version, and then you nip and tuck as you go along when you come to the shortfalls, rather than looking at every item with its specific shape and thinking, what do I need to do for that? That worked wonders. So then I became a champion wrapper, and those skills never go away. I could do that again. Question number 14 is, have you ever gone Christmas caroling? Not in the way that the question intends. I have done Christmas caroling, yes, on a couple of Christmases. One time, in Siberia, in what was then the Soviet Union. Another time in Glacier National Park in Montana. Not so much in the park, but right relatively near it, a few days away up to the north, where the caroling happened with wolves. where it was snowy and it was dark, and they would just start up, or I would start up, and we would answer back and forth, and vary back and forth sometimes for hours and hours at a time, in both those locations and many others. It was a little bit melancholy because my beagles always wanted to join in, and they aren't good for that. They aren't. Wolf howls are very beautiful, and it's tough for a human to get involved in a way that a wolf won't mind, but it can be done. It puts only a minor strain on the vocal cords to be convincing. Beagles can't be convincing at it at all. Not at all. They want to make a joyful noise along with the other carolers, but oh my, oh my. So I'm gonna say that Siberia, up on it, there was one particular barren plateau that I imagine still isn't developed, that was just wonderful. Oh, just wonderful. It was local wolves that I had to deal with. Now, there are other wolves in Siberia and the rest of the rest of Russia that follow caribou migrations and don't have a specific territory of their own. And I've dealt with both. It's the same thing in America. I've dealt with both and sung with both. So I'm gonna lump that in as Christmas carols. Question number 15 is: do you make New Year's resolutions and do you stick to them? I don't make New Year's resolutions, no, because I disappear at the end of the year. A lot of you are new to this channel. You probably don't know what I'm talking about, but you will see soon enough that, oh, it won't be long now. It's not far off at all, where I will just disappear from BookTube, from your Voxers, from your email inboxes, from all of social media. I will just be gone. It's nothing to be alarmed about. It happens at the end of every year. And it's likely that I will be back. And when I am back, if I come back, I will be changed. There will be things that will be different. Some years, so few things, or the kind of things so that an outsider would barely notice. Other years, far more major. But I don't count those as New Year's resolutions, because they are me when I come back. Things have been reslotted into different places. So it's not a resolution in the sense I need to remember to be faithful to it. It is suddenly me. So New Year's resolutions, no. But sticking to them, yes. If that's possible. It seems paradoxical that I would agree to half of the question, but nevertheless, I know the spirit of the question, and I strongly urge the rest of you to engage in the spirit of the question. New Year's is, among other things, a time that is stereotypically used for people to reassess the things they like and don't like about their lives, to maybe try to implement new habits. That's all it is to implement new habits. For most people. For me, it's not quite the same. The new things would be me. I wouldn't have the ability not to do them. But for a lot of people, it takes only 2 or 3 weeks to make a new behavior into a habit. And habits are the easiest way to keep doing things. So I would urge those of you who are making New Year's resolutions to just stick with it. The problem that a lot of people have when they make New Year's resolutions is that they think this is forever, when that's naturally discouraging. What you want to think is this is for 2 weeks. After 2 weeks, the habit will reinforce itself. Anyway, that answer probably made no sense at all. Sorry about that. And question number 16. You have been granted one Christmas wish. What is it for? If I could cheat and have one local wish, one specific wish to me, and one broader wish, the broader wish would be fairly acrimonious but necessary. I agree with the chorus of commentators here in America who say that the very worst thing that President-elect Joe Biden can do for the future of America is not to let his Justice Department prosecute their predecessors. This is not political sour grapes. No one has ever accused Joe Biden of that kind of partisan politics, and no one ever could. He doesn't feel it. And his Justice Department won't feel it. But Trump has broken the law many, many, many times. His adherents have broken the law many times, and they've done it specifically in their capacity leading the government. They have to be prosecuted, or everyone who comes after them who feels in any way so inclined will be encouraged by no precedent. That just has to happen. The pardons that Donald Trump has handed out just in the last 3 days are blatantly criminal. if that's what a president uses his pardons for, to pardon people who impartial juries found guilty of serious crimes, including murder, then that president needs to be investigated by the next administration. All subsequent administrations have to know that if they just flagrantly break the law, run out millions of dollars of bills of their own businesses just to make themselves richer as being president, that they will be prosecuted for it. So that is the larger wish that I would have, is that that would happen. And the smaller wish would have to do with Frida, who has in 2020 she developed a minor but worrying health problem, and my smaller wish would be just to snap my fingers and have it be gone. Just have her health be the same as it was in 2018. That would be great. That's not a big deal, but still, I'd rather it not be there for her or for me. And there you go. At great enormous length, that is the Holly Jolly Christmas tag. I don't think Chloe didn't tag me. I don't think anybody has tagged me. I'm not going to tag anybody. I just felt like nattering on camera before I don't do that anymore. So I'll wrap this up for now, but I'll be back. Thank you, BookTube.